In this lesson, we'll cover space separation. So you may ask, well, what is space separation? Space separation means you're taking a space and dividing it into multiple spaces. You may say, well, why would I want to do that? Well, it has to do with zones, or think of heating and cooling within a building. You have different thermostats in different places in an office, and that thermostat controls a zone, which could be consistent of multiple spaces. But let's say one of your spaces crosses between zones. You can't have that, so we need to actually separate that space or make a separation line so that space can now be in one zone and the other part of it in the other zone. For example, if I look at my office building that I have on my screen, one zone will probably be the 3 offices. Another zone will probably be this conference room. Another zone will probably be the corridor and all the rooms in the back. And then another zone will probably be the reception area, the men and women's restroom, and the corridor up front. Looking at that, that means I would have a zone here in the front part of the corridor and a zone in the back part of the corridor. But right now, the corridor, as you can see as I highlight it in red, is one area, or in this case, one space. So really what I need to do is split that. And to do that, we'll use the space separation technique or tool. So to split a space or create a separation line for a space, let's go to the Analyze tab, and then on the Spaces and Zones panel, click Space Separator. This will now let you draw a line through any given space, dividing it at that line. So I want to actually split this actual zone or the corridor right in the middle. So I'm going to move my mouse to where I see a midpoint on one wall, left click, and then drag across to the wall opposite on the other side, and then left click again. And what will happen now is it actually splits that space. So you can see right now, as I'm still in the command, corridor 101 now is just a space for that back corridor. And the white area on the bottom now is an undefined space. So I'm done with the separation technique, so click Modify. Now all I have to do now is to create another space for the beginning part of the corridor. So to do that, go to the Analyze tab, click Space, and then move into the undefined space to place a new space tag. Go ahead and click, and then click Modify. Now I've placed that space, and I can see it's space 112. Well, I want to rename that to corridor and give it the number 101A. And then I could rename the other corridor to 101B. To do that, I could do it right here on this screen, or I could go to my space schedule. So I can scroll down in the project browser on the lower left to Schedules and Quantities, and then double-click Space Schedule. This will display my current list of spaces. So for the existing corridor, I'm going to change the numbering to 101-B. And then I'll find the space that we just created called Space, and I'm going to rename that to Corridor, and I'll renumber it to 101-A. And then based on the sort technique of the table, it updates and places those in numbered order. Now let's go back to our plan view. So I can scroll all the way back up to Mechanical, HVAC, under Floor Plans, 1-Mechanical. And now I can see I've updated those space tag names and their associated numbers. So in this lesson, what we covered was creating space separation lines. And we did that because we have a large space that is going to eventually span multiple zones, and those zones control the heating and cooling of that given area. So therefore, I needed to split a space in two, in this case, the corridor. I used the space separator technique, the tool located on the Analyze tab, to draw a line to divide the corridor space in the middle of our building. And then I created a new space tag for the undefined space. And finally, we renamed the corridor name and numbers.